Let's burn it down in the holy place. Light our passions, scale the walls. Over the edge like it's nothing at all. Free fall, free fall. Let's be too much.
Okay, welcome everyone. Um, thanks
Hi.
for thanks for joining us today. I want to introduce Dr. Patti Ashley, my wonderful friend and colleague. Patti Ashley is a licensed professional counselor, and she's integrated 40 years of experience in special education, child development, and psychology into her wholehearted work as a psychotherapist, author, international speaker, and authenticity architect coach. She brings unique insights into the identification and treatment of shame, trauma, grief, and dysfunctional family patterns. Dr. Ashley owns and operates Authenticity Architects in Boulder, Colorado. Her inimitable authenticity architecture model facilitates long-term changes in the brain and nervous system, helping clients break through unconscious barriers and rediscover a sense of self-love, belonging, and connection. As a licensed professional counselor since 2000, Dr. Ashley has counseled a myriad of individuals, couples, families, and groups in mental health agencies, psychiatric hospitals, and private practice settings. I've known Patti since 2008. I happened to be privileged enough to be in the room when we were doing I was hosting a dream workshop retreat weekend and working with Jeremy Taylor, and Patty's name came out of the bowl in order to work a dream, and one of the projections on her dream was, if this were my dream, I would have a book to write. And I saw it, Patty's authorship bloomed from that day forward. Her first book, "Living in the Shadow of the Too Good Mother Archetype," and 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 "Letters to Freedom," and now this book that we're celebrating today. So welcome everyone, and now Patti, go. I'm going to introduce Patti. Go ahead.
Hi. Thanks, Billy. Thanks for doing this, setting all this up and everything. Um, so we want to create a safe container for everybody today. I want to talk about my book. I have so much I want to say. I'm wondering, Billy, because we want to get the speaker view, if people should mute if they're not talking. Would that help? Because right now
Yes.
you're on the screen. So
Mhm.
what do you
Okay.
think?
So I can, yes, please, everyone, please mute, so that, because it'll pop up every time there's a sound in the background. So we're gonna,
What happens if you mute, Billy?
I don't know, I'll unmute myself, but see what
Mute you,
happens.
mute you to see what
I'm
happens.
muting me.
Okay. Okay, that doesn't change either, right? You're
I'm
still
trying.
center.
I
Okay.
think because I'm recording, maybe that's why. I'm not sure.
So should we go to gallery view then? We were trying to figure out the best way to do this, and maybe gallery view.
Yeah, gallery view. There's everybody. Hello, welcome, welcome.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for being here. Okay, this is great. And thanks, Billy, for all your hard work on this. Oh, so here we are. Oh my gosh, I have friends, family, and colleagues, the brave ones who are willing to show up. It's so good. Oh my gosh, my kids are here. This is so super cool. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh, and gals. So we're going to do introductions in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about shame and the word shame and the book, and try and set a safe container. You are the brave ones to show up today for a conversation about shame, because shame is a loaded word, right? Just the word itself is kind of loaded. So thank you all for coming out. I know a lot of people, it's a work day, and yeah, it means a lot to see you all here. So we want to have some discussion if you're willing and able, but let me tell you a little bit about this book. All right, where'd it go? Here it is. It's backwards. I need to change it on my. It's okay. Okay, Elizabeth, it's okay. Yeah, 2 years in the making here. And like Billy said, my first book, Living in the Shadow of the Too Good Mother Archetype, that came out in 2014, I think, was based on my doctoral dissertation about women not feeling good enough as moms. And then Brene Brown came out with her work on shame. And I thought, wow, this is really what I was looking at with these women who don't feel good enough. So I found that the women I worked with in my private practice and in my parent education didn't feel good enough as moms. And what is that? Chronic not enoughness. And so I dug into that. And then when Brene Brown came out with the word shame, I thought that really is the overview. That really explains it all. And so I started getting knee deep in the research around shame. I started doing training for this company called Patti, and I've been doing training with them for a few years. And then they asked me to write this book. Wrote the memoir, Letters to Freedom, in the meantime, just on the side, because those two book contracts kind of happened all at the same time. And I thought, sure, why not write 2 books this year? And yeah, note to self, don't ever do that again. So, the edits took a lot in both these books. But anyway, I want to start with the book itself has a lot of worksheets. So it is for therapists, right? And even though it's a workbook that therapists can use with their clients. So I know a lot of you here aren't therapists. Some of you are. Some of you are coaches. Some of you do things where you help people. So hopefully the book will help everybody. And this is what I found in my work now is I'm always looking for where's the shame. And I thought it's kind of under everything we look at: depression, anxiety, codependency, perfectionism, even. So I said shame's like a hub of a wheel. And I'm going to read a little bit about the difference between core shame and shame, because here's the thing. Shame's a loaded word, right? I don't know what comes up for you when you hear the word shame, but I'm writing a blog now called I Should Be Ashamed of Myself for writing a book about shame. And I'm kind of too ashamed to finish the blog because it's a nonverbal experience of something we feel in our bodies. And that's the hard part about working with shame. And that's the hard part about identifying shame. And that's what I was digging up in my research. So I thought, well, I love Brene Brown. I want to be Brene Brown, but I couldn't copy her in my training. So I had to go into all the other shame research. And I was fascinated by what we know now about shame and the neurobiology and how it looks very much like trauma and how it affects us, our nervous system, in a way that's all unconscious. And so my work is all about bringing the unconscious to conscious, which is why, Billy and I are such good friends, because she works with dreams and archetypes. And a lot of times, archetypes are the way we can access the unconscious. And a lot of information comes from our dreams. So that's one of the many ways. I put in here Jeremy Taylor's toolkit. I put in here all kinds of other sensory ways to work with shame. But let me just tell you the difference here in the very first chapter. The difference between shame and core shame. Shame is a primary emotion that functions as a moral compass in repairing and maintaining relationships. When we feel remorseful for hurting another person or for doing something that violates our sense of integrity, shame can lead us to make amends and allow us to learn not to repeat the same mistake again. It's a mechanism of social control that deters us from hurting ourselves or others and underlies the formation of conscience. And although shame is an adaptive emotion that prevents people from acting out of pure self-interest, shame can become maladaptive when there are repeated breaches in trust and safety in interpersonal relationships over time. For example, repeated loss of connection with a primary caregiver during childhood due to abuse or neglect can negatively impact brain development and lead to the internalization of what is known as core shame. When people think of shame, they often think of events or situations that are clearly associated with feelings of humiliation, guilt, or remorse, such as sexual abuse or relapse and addiction. Even though these circumstances are certainly characterized by shame, core shame is a deeper underlying sense of being unworthy of love and belonging that may or may not have an external situation in view. And Brene Brown's definition of shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing we are flawed and therefore unworthy of acceptance and belonging. So, super cool that I started all this research on how that looks in the brain and the nervous system. And what happens is, I don't know anyone who's ever walked into my office and said, yeah, I feel good enough. I can love myself. There's this chronic feeling of, I can't do that. I can't say I love myself. That's so far off the spectrum. And what we know now about brain development, it starts with attachment, and the right brain develops the sensory nonverbal aspects of feeling good enough when we are mirrored and loved. And Billy, I have to share, I did have a dream last night that it was a friend of one of my kids was yelling at their baby, which would never happen in waking life, screaming at the baby, telling the baby to stop crying. And I was just like devastated, and I didn't want to shame the mom for shaming the kid. So I went over to this baby who was like stiff, and I picked up the baby, and the baby's head was turned to the left, like almost catatonic. And I started talking to the baby to get the baby to give me eye contact. And so, in my version of that dream, what I was feeling was my own shame of doing this group today and feeling like because what happens is all the stories, and there's a worksheet in the book called The Not Enough Messages, all the things we're told growing up stay in our body memory. And so if we feel like we're not good enough, we're always trying to restory that. And so this baby was told, stop it, stop crying, stop crying, stop crying. And the baby got stiff. And so that baby is in me. And I had to, here's what we do in this work is we heal. We can't go back. And all my kids are here and I love it. You can't go back and fix all the things with me that I did that messed you up now. But we can do it inside ourselves, and that's the real work. And that's the inner child work I loved of the 80s was all about, let's go in and let's talk to your little kid. And so a lot of the work is inner child. So I just wanted to demystify shame a little bit because you are brave to be here. And I know we talked about this being a discussion about shame, and I want to hear, I want to know more about what your feelings of shame are in terms of how you define it. But I wanted to first set that safe container and say it's not that we did something really bad, because the other thing Brene Brown says is the difference between shame and guilt is guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And that's the important piece of core shame. It becomes our identity. I'm bad, I'm flawed, I'm worthless. And so that's what the workbook is about, and that's how I work with people, is how do we get to those core shame beliefs and then restory them. So again, I have a lot I want to say about the book, obviously, because there's a lot in it. And yeah, so the opposite of shame is authenticity, which is why I created Authenticity Architects, because I thought what we really want to do, Winnicott talked about true self, false self, and how we create a false self when we get all these not enough messages and we put on a sense of what we think others want us to be. And I have to say my favorite quote that I always say all the time from Dr. Kersey's, children come into the world very much like a packet of seeds with no cover on the front. And it's a parent's job, very much like a gardener's, to provide the adequate water, air, nutrition, and light. To raise the seed to its highest potential. It's not our job to raise a carnation into a rose or a rose into a carnation. And so, again, my work is very much about going back and digging up the false self personas that we put on and giving people permission to really ask the important questions about who we are and what we want to be in the world. What is our authentic self? Yeah. And so yeah, again, I could talk forever, but why don't we, if people are comfortable,
I'll
go
go
around.
around. I'll go
Okay.
around and ask people to introduce themselves briefly. Just say your name, please, and where you're calling from, and maybe something about authenticity, or how authenticity might show up in your life, or that's a big question, but or if you have any other questions or comments that you want us to explore today, I'll keep track of people's questions, and we'll get to whatever we can today. So I'm going to go in the order on my screen. So Joe, welcome. Can you're going to need to unmute yourself, please. Oh, I can maybe unmute you. Can you unmute? We can't hear
Mute.
you. There
All
you
right,
go. Thank
there we
you.
go. I'm Joe Laffey, and I'm in Wisconsin, near Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a sister of Donna Remmert, and she has introduced me to Patty's work.
Yes.
That's it.
Welcome. We're
Thank
glad you're
Thank you.
here. Okay. Allison.
Hi, Billy and Patty, and everyone. I am so excited to be a part of this today. Patty, congratulations. I know it's been another labor of love and a gift to the
Mm.
world that you've graced us all with. So I am sitting on my patio in Denver, and I am a recovery coach. So that is a peer specialist role. I am non-clinical. I help people who are beginning a recovery journey. Sometimes it's people that have had a recovery journey and have had a reoccurrence of symptoms. I meet them where they're at. And so I guess what I would like to say today is just in my own recovery journey from addiction, and then along the way learning there was a lot of other things that led to my addiction back when I was 14 years old. When I talk about shame for myself, I can feel it in my body when I have made a mistake, usually is how it gets triggered. And I call it my shame spiral, where I just quickly go to being the worst person on the planet. Like, I can't just look at it in this very lighthearted, gosh, you just made a mistake, own it and move on. Like I can lose myself for 24, 48 hours in a shame spiral. And I am learning tools, and I'm learning how to lessen that time of pain. And Patty is, I consider, a friend, and she's been there for me at times when I've had these moments of clarity around, gosh, what's this all about? And I just know a lot of people that struggle with all the addictions when we talk about, mental health challenges, behavioral health challenges, addictions, process addictions, everything from drugs to eating to gambling to sex, the whole gamut. Like, our society's blowing up right now.
Yeah.
From my lens, and so much of it is shame and trauma, and I don't even know if I know the difference. I just know I have it. So I need really smart people like Patty to keep educating me, and I have a therapist that I work with that we do a lot of the internal family systems work, and that's helping me understand where all this kind of originated with my upbringing. So I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. Yes, well, thank you for all that. Thank you, Allison. Christine, let's hear from you.
Good morning. I'm Christine Ruth. I am one of Dr. Ashley's office colleagues, and so grateful for that. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been practicing for the last 20 years and really love Brene Brown's work and really appreciate it. I had a chance to get at least halfway through Dr. Ashley's book this past week and weekend, and I'm already finding it useful because I really appreciate how she's taken so much of the research on shame and kind of boiled it down into these accessible worksheets that I can hand out to people. And already it's helping me, so much of the research that has been done on shame, and we can talk about this later, but yeah, so much of the research that's been done on shame is complex, and I love how she integrates it. And what I really personally resonated with, and we can, again, I'll expand on this later, but just the neurology of shame and how when we're in common everyday interactions, I've noticed, it's hard for me to speak up in a group because I have shame from my childhood of, my father telling me I'm too loud. Children should be seen and not be heard. And so how much work I have to do just to show up in a group setting like this and speak. And it's all related to shame. So I really appreciated all the wise insights Dr. Ashley gives on Patti that you give on neurology. So anyway, thank you for that.
You can cut the Dr. Ashley part.
Okay. Okay. Hey, when you
I
have a
appreciate
doctor
it.
in front of your name, you should use it.
I know, with all the student loans, I appreciate it, but
Yeah.
not necessary.
Okay, Patti. All right.
Thank-
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Good to see you again. So Elizabeth, hi, welcome.
Hi, Billy. Hi, Mom.
Hi. Mom's
Good
in
to
real
see
life.
I know. I'm Patty's oldest daughter, and I'm a school psychologist. I'm actually at work right now in one of my offices. And one of the things that I do a lot of work with students directly, but I also support teachers. What I really like about this kind of way of framing things and talking about is how we're trying to shift how we approach behavior in the classroom from a shame-based approach to a more supportive approach. So I think the more tools and language we can have, because we've been talking a lot in recent years about trauma-informed practices in schools, and I think this just adds more tools. So I'm really excited to take it and use it in my work in the schools. I think it'll be really helpful, and like Christine was saying, really tangible. So that's what's really helpful about it, is you can take it and really take the things that are very complex and like share them with people to help them kind of understand and give like solutions. And that I think what I like about it too is that and Mom and I have talked about this on other things we've done, is how the things you do are really simple things. They're things that like kind of use those other parts of your brain and help you kind of get out of that space of shame. And so yeah, it's just really helpful. So I'm really excited. I'm really proud of you, Mom.
Oh, thank you.
Love you.
I'm so proud of you. And even when I told you when you were little that you should stop crying before I give you something to cry about, and we've repaired that, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah, I'm doing just fine.
That's good.
Thanks for being here. I'm so happy that my children are a part of this. Thank you. I mean, I'm going to cry. Thank you, honey.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So let's hear from Tesney and Michael. Hello, hello.
Hi. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Michael and Tesney.
We're calling from Richmond, Virginia. I'm Michael. I'm Dr. Patty's oldest son. And I don't know. Congratulations on the book.
Thanks, honey. Thank
And
you.
I can introduce myself. My name is Tesney, and I'm Mike's wife and Patty's, I don't know, daughter-in-law.
Daughter.
Sure.
Daughter.
I'm so happy to be here. It's really awesome to see people that you know and care about write books and, you know, follow their dreams and put things out into the world that are important for everybody to relate to and learn from. So it's just really wonderful, and I'm happy to be here and learn and be part of this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
It just touches my heart that you guys are here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to be.
So Kelly Sullivan Walden, how are you?
I am so proud of you, Patti, and so happy to be on this call. Good to see you, Billy, and
Good
nice
to
to
see
meet
you.
everybody. And it's great to meet Patty's kids. You guys are adorable. I want to pinch you. I just want to say, Patti, where are you? I can't see you. I need to see your face. There you are.
To a gallery. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, whatever. Patti, there you are. Okay. What do I want to say? Oh, I'm in California, Topanga, California. And I just love you, and I love your work, and I'm so proud of yet another book and how prolific you are. And I know it didn't just like pop out one day. I know that there was, I remember while you were writing it, it's grueling. And it's one thing to have an idea for a book. It's another thing to start a book. It's a whole other enchilada to finish it. And I'm proud of you. And also just the depth that you bring, and also the humility and the humanity that you bring to your work is so stunning. So I'm grateful that we've become friends and supportive of each other. I also do dream work, so I have that in common with Patti and Billy. And God, I think shame is I'm finding that it's a really important part of my world. I mean, I could probably say a million things about it. I'm confronting it in my practice. I'm a hypnotherapist, certified clinical hypnotherapist and dream worker, but also very personally, I feel like I've taken on kind of like the way that the way I teach people about going after nightmares is to like go after them instead of like hiding from them, hiding from the scary things. It's to like become curious about them and to track them, stalk them, bring like come to mama. So I'm in the process of writing a book. I've written a bunch of nonfiction books, how-to books that are related to dreams and the dream space. But this book is more of a memoir about every single thing I've been ashamed of from a particular formerly shameful period of my early 20s. And it's the best therapy I've ever done. I'm finding, somebody asked me yesterday, so where are you at in your shame about your story? And I said, oh, I still have it for sure. And they were like, really? I'm like, yeah, I do. I think it's not going to be until or if this book comes out and people read it and don't hang me up and quarter me and throw things at me. And if time goes by and I realize I can still breathe, the earth is still spinning, and there's a few people that still love me, then I might not be ashamed at all. But I'm realizing that so much of it is about not them, not about they. It's about how much I can love these aspects of me, these scrappy parts of me that I used to disdain. So I'm on the hunt. I'm a hunter to like want to know how to embrace these aspects more, faster, quicker, personally, and so I can transmit that out. So thank you for helping expedite that.
I think that's a big part of it, the unconditional love for ourselves. That helps a lot, a great deal. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
So let's hear from Diane. Hi, Diane. Welcome.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Congratulations, Patti. I'm so honored that you asked me to participate in your book launch. This is amazing. As everybody has said, it's not easy. It takes a lot of courage to really to address this whole topic, especially when we all live with it. I don't know one single person who doesn't have shame, in some form or another. My shame. So my name is Diane Sanders. I am a treatment placement specialist for Acadia Healthcare. And what I do is talk to people all day long and make recommendations for them for treatment. So I guide them to the professionals based on what is clinically appropriate for them. So the gift I have is I am not here to fill any bed. I'm here to be able to help them get to the place that's going to help them. What I have found in the last 5.5 years that I have been in this role is that people have a lot of, maybe have substance abuse, have other addictive behaviors, have some mental health disorders, but without a doubt, the core is the trauma, is the shame. And we just don't have enough emphasis on that in any model that we have for treatment. I think we need so much more of it. My shame started when I was born. According to my church, I was born of original sin. So my religion taught me that I was not worthy ever. No matter how much I tried, what I ever did, it was just never going to be enough. So from the beginning, I was enough. And to be outspoken about that, to try and be authentically me, was not encouraged because I needed to conform to society, to my religion, to school, to authority, to everything. So I'm a person in long-term recovery myself. I came from an alcoholic family. So I'm also an adult child of alcoholic dysfunctional family. So I'm in that recovery 12-step program as well. It's called emotional recovery, which is really dealing with the shame and the trauma and the guilt and the anger, lots of anger that goes along with this as well. So I'm very excited. I'm so happy that you wrote this book specifically for therapists, because I think that all therapists need a tool that they can use with their clients, that they can visually see to do the work. In many ways, we're kind of all talked out. And this kind of work, you can't talk it all out.
Right.
You have to have pictures and graphs and show and ask questions, so you can get your hands in it. And that's what I see has been the best. Most of the people that I refer for any kind of treatment for continuum of care is typically going to be for working with their trauma and their shame. So, because they're not going to get better. All they're going to do is recycle over and over and over again, because they're trying to stop the pain and the emotional pain. The first time I drank, I was 15, and I felt like I had died and went to heaven, because it was the first time I felt or experienced what I thought was called joy. My brain was happy, and I didn't know what that feeling was ever. Now I've come to understand, it's not, I don't think any of us are surprised that we're in this field, because we've all been touched by this field in some way in our own backgrounds. And we're here to also be on that path of healing ourselves and supporting each other and supporting those we serve. So thank you, Patti, so much for writing this book. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you
So
for
good to
all
see you.
thank you for all your sharing. Thank you. Olga, let's meet Olga. Hello.
I'll unmute myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Olga Coleman from Denver. I'm a retired high school counselor, so now I have time to work on me. And this is how I met Billy in one of her workshops, dream workshops, and I was really fascinated by her Jungian approach. And when I saw the blurb for this book, it really touched a chord in me. I don't know of anybody who's not affected by core shame. As Diane mentioned, a lot of us are born with it, with the whole religious aspect. I think a lot of parents, in their best meaning ways, their child rearing, they do it with a way of shaming you into being good. And even the expectation that you're expected to be a good girl, that's a pretty high expectation to live up to. And when you don't live up to it, obviously you can't live up to it all the time. So when you don't live up to it, that creates shame. Anyway, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Patti, for writing the book, and I'm very excited to read the book and learn more about it.
Thanks, Olga.
Thank you.
I didn't know you're a retired counselor. So that's amazing. You're familiar with shame in schools like my daughter and all of that good stuff, or not so good stuff, or stuff. Thanks for being here.
So thank you. Donna, let's say hi to Donna. Hello.
Okay, I'm feeling a lot of shame at the moment over these glasses that help me deal with light sensitivity. I know I'm kind of dark on your screen too, and that's because I've got the lamps organized to keep the light off my eyes. And I have worked dreams and partied with Patti for many years. She's a dear friend, and I've suffered through the agonies and the ecstasies of all three of her books, and that's very bonding. Also, my sister Jo is here, and the two of us plus another sister have been working her authenticity archetypes in and out class on the internet. And we've had over Zoom, because we live in various states, and we've had a lot of good understanding of ourselves and a lot of giggles over some of the things that have come up about the family we grew up in. I am so thrilled for Patty's book, and I wish her every bit of luck marketing it. I attended Patty's PESI seminar a few years ago and heard that she was going to write a book. Well, now she's actually written that book, and bravo to you on your birthday, Patty.
That's
Or
right.
almost on your birthday,
Patty's
whichever way you count it.
Yeah. Thank you, Donna. Donna has been my biggest cheerleader. You put a review on all 3 books. You did book parties for me for all 3 books, and I know today you're feeling a little under the weather, and you're here for me.
Yeah.
You're always here for me. And we house partied yesterday when I opened the box that came in the mail with the books. And, thank you, Donna. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Am I allowed to interrupt?
Oh, go ahead, Joe. What?
Hi, you called on me first, so I didn't know that I was supposed to say anything more than my name. I'm Donna's sister. I just wanted to add that I was a teacher for 35 years and also have 5 children and 14 grandchildren. I found the book interesting to read just from the standpoint of an older person reliving and rereading all of this. And I see so much value for it in schools. Even though you're not the psychologist or the counselor, just as a classroom teacher, because of course there would be many times when you yourself might be shaming some child. And just from the standpoint of awareness, I think this book is an excellent book to read. That's all I wanted to add.
No,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So let's hear from Laura. Laura, you are a teacher, right? And you're also Patty's other daughter. Hello, hello.
Hi, Billy. Hi, Mom. Hi, everybody.
Honey.
Yeah, I'm a high school English teacher, and yeah, I think that I also teach mindfulness. So that was like the one thing I was thinking to add to this is I feel like that's kind of been the way that I've understood shame, and so I resonate with everything. And I've just flipped through the book. I haven't read the whole thing. Sorry, Mom, but looking at it, it's really interesting.
No shame, honey.
Like, doing the work it's not like a one-way ticket, and so observing yourself through like a mindfulness practice, which is what I feel like I've been working hard at that.
So
to get sort of an experience, but then to have like a manual or like a roadmap, which I feel like the book is really helpful.
Laura, I'm going to stop your video just so we can get a little bit better connection because we're not able to hear what you're saying. So Laura, go ahead and now we might be able to hear you better without the video and audio running together.
Sure.
There, thank you. So you were talking about mindfulness?
Yeah, I was just adding that that's kind of been my way of understanding shame. And I think it's really cool. I think the book is really interesting because it lays out sort of like a roadmap to work with it. Yeah. And it's just another facet, or it's just another part of the puzzle of like doing that work. And I hope that all the practitioners and therapists will find it useful. So
yeah, great.
Well, thanks, Laura. I'm glad you could join us. The sound was a little bit better. It was hard to hear you, but yeah, your work in mindfulness is really important, and I'm so proud of you. and glad you could join us. And
I
my
can.
only child who's not here is my surfer boy in the Outer Banks. He's surfing. So, and my son-in-law, Elizabeth's husband. I'm just so blessed to have incredible children who are really adults now, definitely adults, but
Very
thank
supportive.
you. So I'm glad you could join us, honey. Thanks.
So we
She's
just have
been
a couple
working
more.
hard to finish in school, and she's getting her master's, and yeah, she's been busy with a broken sprained ankle. So
Oh,
glad you could be here.
so we have a couple more people to meet here. David Delaney, hello, welcome.
Hey there. I'm David Delaney. I'm a colleague of Patty's, and yeah, I've been part of her writing process for numbers of years. We see each other pretty regularly, although I was in New York City for the last 9 months, but we've been meeting for I don't know how long, how many years, Patty?
Long time, 5, 6, 7,
Long,
8.
long time. I don't know if it's a decade or whatever, but we have lunch regularly and talk about clients and life. So anyway, yeah, this is a very, very important topic because the whole culture is steeped in unconscious, unaware shame that drives us, and because of it, we're unable to address a lot of issues that need to be addressed pretty quickly here, given the condition the planet's in. So
Yeah.
important stuff here.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so glad you could join us, David. We were having a conversation at our lunch yesterday about the book, and his book, David's book's coming out soon too. I'll put a little plug in for you. He's been working with music and sound and healing, which is so related to what, really, actually, we had that conversation about prosodic rhythm, remember, at lunch, and the other therapists were going, "What's that?" And David and I were trying to explain it. We were going, "What's prosody?" So prosody is the rhythm underneath sound in music and poetry, which is something I talk about in the book. So I'm excited for David's book coming out soon, and I'm glad you could be here.
Great.
Thank you.
So we still need to meet Junia. Junia, hello, welcome. Good to see you again.
Hi. Trying to get the video here.
There you are.
There we go. Well, in a minute. Okay. So I'm June Yamal, and I'm a good friend of Patty's, and I do know I have several of you in the call today are friends that I've known for many years. And I always loved supporting Patty in her new endeavors, and I'm really excited for you. Congratulations on the latest book. I'm a little distracted at the moment. Right as the call started, I got a call from my dad has a button, and he had fallen and the EMTs were en route. Got word that he's okay, but we're still waiting for my brother's trying to get a hold of him, but that's always, 93-year-old. So I'm a little distracted, but I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I think there's a lot of shame underlying perfectionistic tendencies. And because you're never quite enough, and that's what you try to use to receive love. Long way from it than the way I was when I was growing up, but I think there's shame and, of course, guilt associated with all of that. I love Brene Brown's work, and do think it's just a very, very important topic, and something that we need to heal this world. So thank you.
Well, Junia, I'm so glad you could join us. And your work, I know, is on hold too, because you do sacred travel. And that, again, is a somatic experience and that's why I want to do the Mary Magdalene trip with you in France, because I'm all about how you feel, because we can't do this work from the neck up. So how do we feel into what we're trying to heal? So Junia has a trip planned to Peru that may or may not happen in the fall. Hopefully it will. But So you're
No,
working.
we actually just called it last week.
Good.
We've moved it to 2021.
Okay.
We had to move it last week to 2021. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm sorry about your dad. Prayers to him. Thanks for being with us.
thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I love this conversation and hearing your stories and you showing up to celebrate. Yay. This is a really important day. And Donna, thank you. You got the first review on Amazon for me. I appreciate that. She was ready to go before Amazon would even let her. So appreciate that. So are there any specific questions? A couple things I want to that people said that I was thinking of, the perfectionism for one. Where did she go, Junia? Okay, everybody flashed on the pictures instead of
It always shifts around a little bit.
The thing about shame and people don't think about perfectionism as shame, right? Because we think, well, we're just trying to achieve, we're just trying to do good things in the world, and we want to get it right. And there is an idea that getting things done well and achieving is a good thing. But when it goes into the shame, it's when, again, back to Brene Brown's definition of exposing I'm tragically flawed and I'm unworthy of love and belonging. So if I mess up, someone might know the secret, of my core shame, which is that I'm not lovable and I'm not good enough. And so perfectionism is a huge one. And especially here, I work with a lot of kids at the high schools, and, I live in Boulder. So, it's a lot of overachieving. And there was several suicides in the high school here. And there have been, and there are, it's just ridiculous the amount of suicide in these kiddos. But I think all of them were overachieving. They were the IB students, and they had a lot of pressure. And so I think when we demystify what we're really looking at, codependency, that's another one, overgiving, doing too much, people pleasing. We don't think there's shame, because aren't they nice people? They're doing, look at, codependents are my best friends. I'm a recovering codependent myself. It's like, I want to help you. I want to do things for you. But when, again, that's good. But when it goes too far, that's when we're into the core shame. And, the people who can't say no, and yeah, so there's three ways. Linda Hartling talks about defenses against shame. We move away, we move towards, we move against. And so, there's a lot of ways we respond to shame, and it's all a reaction in the sake of safety and survival, according to Stephen Porges. And again, I have so much I could talk about, but let me just say these three things. So moving away is when we isolate and avoid, and we don't deal with conflict. So that's a way to defend against shame. Moving towards is the codependency, perfectionism, people pleasing, overdoing, overgiving. Moving against is the anger, defensiveness, gaslighting, just struggling against. And so, whenever you look at someone's behavior, you can usually see they fall into one of those three areas. And so what we want to do is we want to come back into a sense of emotional safety and regulate our behavior. And that's, again, what I talk about in the book, and there's tons of worksheets and stuff on that. But I think we all create a story. So our right brain develops this feeling of I'm not safe and I'm not lovable. And then our left brain, as we develop further, creates stories of how to be lovable and how to make sure nobody sees that I don't feel lovable. And it's just a real cringy kind of experience, shame, That's what one of my teens said to me the other day when I was asking her if she was doing her, affirmations and repeating her news story. And she goes, that's cringy to me. That's just cringy.
Cringy.
So I like that word. It is cringy. It is. This work, because it's nonverbal, and I teach therapists how to work with the nonverbal aspects of shame, and I have to bring language to that. So that's why, people who work with dreams and sound and music and any of the other sensory modalities, I think, are really important in terms of shame work. So again, I could go on and on and on and on and on, and I know everyone has things to do today, but let's just, if there's any questions, or Billy can ask you questions, or if anyone here has a question, let's just.
I'm wondering if shame has to come from an outside source. I'm thinking of the one child in a family who might not have the abilities of the others. So in spite of no one ever mentioning it or saying anything, that person feels not enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think we're all born with an essence of our true self, like the quote that Catherine Kersey said about we're either a rose or a carnation. So how do the caregivers and adults in the world allow that person to grow to its full potential? And some people are going to have, we just have inborn personalities. I know all four of my kids are all different. And what I noticed the day they were born, I can still see in their faces now. So, it's nature nurture. And was it Olga who was it that talked about original sin? Who was that? Diane. Yeah. So when we're born into a belief system, I was Catholic as well too. And you are born a sinner and you have to be cleansed. And I would go to church every Sunday and be told these messages about forgive me for what I've done, la la la, and I'm not worthy. Even that's in the mass. I am not worthy to receive you before you go to communion. And so when I started doing my work in therapy in my 30s, and I'd go into a Catholic church with my mom, because I'm no longer a participating Catholic, I would feel like, whoa, I'm supposed to say that out loud in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, that I'm not worthy. These are the messages that we get everywhere. And I think because it's all so brand new, we didn't know this until the last century. We have a lot of repair to do. And I think with this pandemic, we're all getting kind of activated. Our shame's coming up, our trauma's coming up, because it's activating our sensory experiences in a different way than when our lives had been, where we were just kind of going through the motions and doing what we were doing. Now it's like, whoa, I'm feeling something. So I think it's a really important time to look at that. And Joe, I think every human being is different. Everybody responds differently. My sister swears she has no shame and she doesn't even want to talk about it. So, it's like, we're from the same parents, I'm sure. Which, by the way, today would have been my parents' 75th anniversary. I just have to say that. It was supposed to be my birthday because my mom had a C-section. That's what Donna was talking about. And so I was born tomorrow, but I celebrate today. So it's a really special day that when my publisher told me it was coming out today, I was like, that's my birthday. But not really. But it's my parents' anniversary. So, everybody's different in answer to your question. I think, and it's all about repair and resiliency. It's really about making the unconscious conscious and repairing some of these old patterns. I know we worked on the not enough messages that was in the book, in the Zoom group that I did with you and your sisters. Things like
Not
what
enough.
were you told. That's one of the worksheets in there. Were you told,
Right.
you're too big for your britches? Was that one? That was Billy,
Yeah,
right?
that was you're too big for your britches. I heard that a lot. You're just getting too big for your britches, Billy Sherrill.
Billy, I bet you were.
Right. I was like, it's sort of like, don't be too proud. Don't be too good. Don't show up too much. We don't want you to shine. That's pretty much what that expression is saying in my version of it. And then that's what that one of the first messages I got of feeling not enough.
And what parents say to their children gets interpreted so differently by each one of the children. Joe and I are from a family of 7 children, and we love talking about our growing up years and our childhood. And what becomes so obvious is that how I interpreted what my dad said, for instance, is very different from how another sibling interprets what my dad said. We're all so different, like you say.
Right. And
Yeah.
some of us receive the messages and take them in. And as Patty says, it becomes core shame. And others, don't internalize it quite as much. So I think that's a piece of it too, is how and that's one thing we've talked about Patty, is vulnerability. How do I allow myself to be vulnerable to see where all this started, where it began?
Right. And that being too much, that's why I was playing Rebecca Folsom's song, Let's Be Too Much, at the beginning of the class, because I have permission from her to use that song. And that's what the song is about. And again, prosody, rhythm, music, I think is really important. I play that and a couple other songs before I teach, so I can feel into it's okay to be too much. Let's be too much. Let's not hide. Let's not pretend in order to fit in with that false self. Let's be too much. And
Right.
I got to sing that with Rebecca in her voice class. Blared it out. It was so much fun. So being enough also means, digging up those old messages like don't be too much. So here's the page, the not enough messages. And this was interesting when I did this. When I was writing it, I put a post on Facebook and I said, I have a few. You'll never amount to anything. You should be ashamed of yourself. Stop crying before I give you something to cry about. Don't be angry. I said, does anybody have any other ones? And the post went wild, and there were just post after post after post after post, and then comments about, well, that's what I was told, but I turned out okay. And then comments of, I'm in tears, I'm feeling this. So again, in answer to your question, Joe, how we all respond, different people have different, ways of creating whatever story they create. But it was really interesting. So it ended up with, it's like 3 pages. I trust you as far as I can throw you. You're a lazy bum. Don't be such a crybaby. Does anybody have any not enough messages they want to add to my list? It's pretty long. Things that you heard growing up. Because was it Olga? Who was it that was talking about the early childhood parenting practices earlier? Somebody. I write about that.
Me, I was talking about that. I think our parents send messages, and not because they're trying to be bad parents, but for instance, oh, you gotta be.
Right.
Yeah. Well, realistically, the kid knows that the parent isn't going to quit loving them because they gotta be, but deep inside, you know that they really expected you to get that A.
Yeah, and they're subtle, which is why, we talk about trauma-informed care, and that's why I call the book Shame-Informed Therapy, because I think, we talk about big traumas and little traumas, and I think there's big shame and little shame. And the little shame are these subtle, like, stop crying before I give you something to cry about, and which can be repaired, because my daughter's here to tell you that. Right? And I wrote about Alice Miller's work of the 18th century child rearing textbooks that were all shame-based, and it's in our DNA. That's the other thing, is we have researchers show we're carrying 14 generations of our ancestral DNA. So we have a big job here, not just in our one lifetime, but lifetimes of repair. So that's why I like to demystify shame and give people permission to go, it's not just me. It really is a collective experience of being told I'm not good enough. And I love Alice Miller's book, For Your Own Good, the way she defines these things that parents were taught to do: break the will of the child before they're old enough to remember, beat the devil out of them, a child with a temper tantrum is possessed by the devil, bad feelings or angry, giving kids too much attention is bad.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a great book. It was such an eye-opener for me. It really changed everything in my work when I learned that, in the 80s. Anyway.
So do you want to talk about the sea shovels? I think that's a really good piece that you have that you've come up with. Is it the 4 sea shovels?
Yeah, it's funny, but I'll talk about the ABCs.
Oh, okay.
Billy and I always tease about acronyms because I'm starting to use acronyms more because I think it helps people remember. And she's like, oh, another acronym. The sea shovels. So I'm going to talk about the ABCs because the sea shovels are part of that. And that's a really good piece to probably start to wrap up with. It's a handout that I suggest my clients print and put somewhere to remember. Because what happens is when we're in a shame reaction, we can't regulate our emotions. And so it's really hard and our frontal lobe goes offline. It's really hard to get clear on how, how to respond. And so the first thing is to acknowledge that you're having a feeling. That's the A. Yeah. So sometimes when we're triggered, like remember I talked about either move away, move towards, or move against. And then also in the book, there's the list of all of the things in the shame hub, all the defenses about shame. Recognize that we're having a feeling. I'm going to acknowledge that I got to feel. And then I'm going to take a breath. That's the B, take a deep breath. Because what happens when we're in shame, very much like trauma, is we take shallower breaths. And so to acknowledge I got a feeling, take a breath, and then try one of the sea shovels. So thank you, Billy, for bringing that up. So curiosity, compassion, connection, and courage. And so it kind of, it's like a pattern interrupt. So instead of like, I want to just hide, or I want to like overdo, or I want to, argue with you and make sure I'm right, I get curious. We can't be in shame when we're in curiosity. And I love curiosity. And you talk about kids, you look at kids, they're all just intrinsically curious. Like, what's that? What's that? What's that? So if we as adults can go into that, well, that's interesting that I'm having this feeling, or isn't that, I wonder what's up for him that he's having this reaction, and have compassion. So understanding that somebody else, everything to me now is a reaction against shame. So if somebody is doing one of their defenses, I have compassion for that. Have to have a lot of courage too. This takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage to not go into the old story. And then connection, where we get in touch with ourselves as well as the other as much as possible. So connect, because I think we get disconnected when we go head up and we get into the story, and we're not really connected to what we're feeling. So that's the 4 sea shovels. And again, I suggest people put it up where they can remember. So if they're like in some sort of shame response, they can go, okay, wait, I'm having a feeling, breathe, and curiosity again is one of my favorites. Yeah. So. Does anybody any other questions?
Congratulations, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
So Patti, I do have another question. Your book, where do you see professionals using it the most? In private practice, in the schools, counselors, in open-minded religious thought? Where do you think would be the most value? I think it's valued everywhere, but I guess what I'm asking is like, where are you wanting to target it as far as getting your information out there to have it be valuable use for them?
Right. I think all of the above, Diane, you're right. And it was specifically written, from people who do what I do, or for, I want to share with you what I've found from the research that I think is helpful as a therapist. But, as an addiction counselor, which Allison's dropped off, addiction counselor, coach, I think all of the above, school counselors, I think it can be helpful. I think it's because it's a workbook, so it gives you some of the background, but it's more just, here's a tool, here's something that you can, and if you buy the book, in the back, there's under the reference part, there's a link that you can just go ahead and download these worksheets, and you can print the worksheets out. And so I'm hoping it'll help a lot of people just to reframe shamed. I always look at where's the shame when I work with people now. I used to look for grief, and now I look for shame, and both, because I think grief is shame because it's a loss of our authentic self. And so it really is informing the empathy.
Yeah,
So the
empathy is
chapter on empathy in the therapy room, that's what I work with when I work with a therapist. And I'm getting ready in October to do a 2-day shame-informed therapy certification training in the middle of October for all the above that you mentioned, Diane. Anyone is welcome to come, because it's really big empathy. Let's talk about empathy for a minute, because people think, well, empathy is, just understanding another person, but it's not. And there's a big difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is feeling with someone, and when we feel with someone, we activate the mirror neurons, and we know now that what happens is if I'm in sustained relationship with someone who's in grief or shame, I too am going to be feeling that grief and shame. So I think a lot of the work that I wanted to bring forth in the book is about how do we as therapists regulate our own feelings of grief and shame as we're in a co-regulated state with our clients, which is that's the tricky piece in doing this work. Because, at the end of the week, I'm usually like, whoa, I'm just feeling, because I felt so much with people that it's like I have to kind of sort out where am I in all that. And I think that's what makes us really good therapists, is when we can really have that large empathy, is what I call it.
I appreciate everything you just said. And especially about the healers healing themselves. One of the blockages that I have seen, and I have been advocating, just based on what I've heard from clients' experiences with failed treatment, is the need to work more deeper into what we have said is this big umbrella called trauma, right? And I hear shame being a part of that, grief being a part of that. There's so many different aspects to the trauma that we call. And what people have expressed to me is that the reason that we're not changing our models, particularly in primary treatment, is because the staff has to deal with their own trauma.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's too heavy. So they go to simple. They go with what they know, and they don't go any further. So I would like to support you in doing a training via Zoom through Acadia to train the trainers, to train therapists in being able to address how they can safely work with their own shame and trauma, with your book, because I really appreciate the way you said we have to do this first.
Yeah.
If we
Thank
don't,
you. I would love to do that. Love, 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 love. And here's the worksheet for therapists called Empathy in the Therapy Room.
Love it.
And I do this when I do my trainings. And, I work for this company that does continuing education, PESI. And there are a lot of left brain therapists. They come in and they want the bullet points and they want the research. And I'm trying to help them enter into this right brain, heart-centered place. And I'm always nervous, oh my gosh, are they going to want to answer questions like, what does empathy feel like to you? When a client comes dysregulated, how does your body feel? What are some clues that the client's triggered your own shame? And the conversations are amazing. Once I set a safe container at the beginning of the workshop, it takes a while to get there a little bit for people to kind of feel comfortable with this process. Like I said today, when you all joined, I'm like, you're vulnerable and I have empathy for this is a tough topic. And then everyone learns from everybody and they see that, guess what? I have that too. I feel that too. I get that too. And how do we then co-regulate? So it's fascinating. Yes, so I would love to do that. Thank you.
Well, let's talk a little further about this offline.
Yeah, offline. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we're got a few more minutes. I'm so grateful for all of you today to join me in celebrating the book. Tell everybody to buy it, please. So yesterday it was on number 422 in Phobias and something on Amazon. So if I get into the 100, I'll have my second bestseller. So if anyone buys the book,
Patti,
that'll help.
Patti, I just wanted to thank you for all the great analogies you use in your book. You know, one of the things I really appreciated, I was reading one of your worksheets is on training your puppy, you know, and thinking about how, you know, and I'd love you to speak more to this, but, you know, just how in these daily interactions when shame comes up, like acknowledging it and then teaching it to kind of stand at bay, right? Like, okay, I see you there and I know you're there and I'm going to invite you to just sit here and give it a treat, right? Well, don't give yourself too many treats because that's what I often do in my shame. But,
yeah,
you know, but I just really appreciated that analogy. And I was like, I am going to use that with my clients all the time. That was so helpful.
And here's that worksheet, training your puppy to sit. And that develops because I had a client bring a puppy in one day and she said, she was a middle schooler, and she goes, I'm so afraid the dog, he's going to get too big and I won't be able to train him. And I was working with this shame research and I thought that's a lot like shame. It's like, would you just, I said, I don't know, I've never trained a puppy, but I do know you have to repeat over and over to tell them to sit and give them lots of rewards. And so that's how that hand out. And I use it a lot with my clients, a lot. And again, it is a tangible, it's archetypal. Like, you know, Billy and I talk about archetypes. People can relate to that. There's an image of something. Here's a dog, sit. You know, otherwise it's like, you know, tell your shame messages to go away, you know. No. But if I go sit, and I have clients who will say to me, I told my puppy to sit this week, you know. So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that and I remember that part of that was inspired by, I have a dog that we were training at the time, and and Patty came over and she kept watching us go, no, because you know the dogs always want to jump up on you, and we kept telling her, no, get down, get down, get down, and we had to keep reinforcing that. So yeah, training your puppy to sit, it's quite a good metaphor for that.
Because that's what shame does. And I'm not sure who said earlier, it just doesn't go away. It may have been Allison. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's the other part of demystifying shame is people think I go to therapy and I should feel better in
Right.
6 weeks, 6 months, or whatever. And why is this still happening? And I think demystifying that we have lifetimes of cleaning up to do. And so to be really gentle with ourselves and repetition, 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 as Bruce Lipton, you know, who studied epigenetics said, we can change these old memories. It requires getting into the feeling aspect over and over and over. And so that's what all the exercises, or most of the exercises in the book are about, are exercises, ways to do that. And I think creative arts, music, dance, anything somatic that we can step into,
Yeah.
is really helpful.
I think that's really an important piece that you help teach, Patty, is how do we integrate this in, you know, with our body? How do we feel it? And because the body has its own message. I mean, maybe that's how we can close. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, about how we internalize this so deeply sometimes. It becomes part of our physiology. So,
Yeah, and Bessel van der Kolk in his book The Body Keeps Score, he talks about that, how the body always wins is what he says, is trauma has no time in the body memory. And so when we are triggered by a memory or something that reminds us of the trauma, we're going to have that response. So very similar with shame, in the sake of safety and survival, emotional safety, we're going to do one of our defenses against shame, because so we have to get the frontal lobe back online, because we go into the primitive brain of fight or flee, which again is like the move against, move towards, move away. So yeah, and that's to demystify that for people, because that's what I found in my book. The Too Good Mother archetype is moms would turn it inward, and it was something that I did wrong, right? And so to demystify that it's collective, let's look at these old patterns. Let's look at how this got set up in our DNA. Let's give ourselves a break and recognize that, you know, it's a commitment to change these old things in our body memory, and to give ourselves a little bit of a break. Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's a really important piece, to just realize that the body has its own wisdom. And I have experienced that myself with trauma, where I feel like, oh boy, everything in my body feels exactly like it was when this happened. At the moment that it happened in my life, I feel my breathing change. I feel my heart rate accelerate. I feel my body tense up. And I think to be kind to ourselves and realize that that is there, and like you said, have a time to get to express it in some way through dance or through some type of movement or sound, to help that healing process through the body as well.
Yeah, and even the dream work and the working with archetypes and the work that you and I do, with story and metaphor, um, is another way to do that. So yeah, it's really important. Forgot what I was going to say.
So Laura just typed in a chat here. The body is the ultimate alchemist. That's beautiful. It's a great way to look at it. That's
Yeah.
how we can. That's why we so often dream about kitchens. I learned that early on with dream work, is we so often dream about kitchens because that's where the alchemical process takes place. We take everything, all the parts of ourselves, and bring them together to create something new.
Well, I think it's getting to that time. Did you think, Billy?
Yeah.
We should probably wrap up. I was thinking, unless there's any other anything that anyone wants to mention or ask before we wrap up, I want to.
Happy birthday, Mom.
That's great. Yeah. I forgot to mention that your birthday.
I know, birthing a book on my birthday is super cool. So I want to mention a few things. The course that Donna mentioned that she was doing is called Go In, Not Out, Finding Deepening Parts of Yourself in Challenging Times. And a lot of the material in the book is in that course, and it is free. And it's on my website, so you can let people know about that. July 31st, Diane, you might be interested in this. I'm doing a Facebook Live for Sandstone called The Art and Architecture of Feeling Lovable. And it's a 2-hour Facebook Live. And then again in October, I am doing a shame-informed therapy certification for PESI online October 15th and 16th. So if anyone's interested in getting a certificate in shame-informed therapy, that's coming up. And then Billy and I are having a lot of fun talking about the archetypes in the tarot and how they relate to the pandemic. And so that next one is happening on the 18th. And Billy also has some things that she might want to share with you that she's doing that might be of interest.
Well, thank you. Sure. I might go to my website, wakeuptoyourdreams.com. I work with 2 different Zoom dream groups throughout the month. One is in the evening. In fact, there's one meeting tonight. So there's 2 Tuesdays a month, and then there's 2 Thursday afternoons that we meet for dreams as well. And as Patti mentioned, we have done these Zoom gatherings for the last few months, ever since the pandemic, the social distancing started. We were providing a place for people to talk about what's happening in a more of a metaphor and symbolic version, rather than just the facts and figures and all the news that we get. So we've worked with a number. This next time we're going to work with the Hermit. Yeah, that's Saturday the 18th from 1 to 2:30 Mountain Time. And if you want to see what we've done before, all the recordings are posted under Zoom gatherings on my website, and it's free of charge to attend. So that's it.
Great.
Thanks everybody for coming. I kind of wanted to close with one thing, Patti, too. Well, this is a piece in her book, which is about the core shame part, because I think all of us at some point have said these things to ourselves. And I remember when one of the first things I learned from my first dream teacher was, he said, try and trace that back. Like the minute I hear myself say something in my head about not being enough or not being worthy, then I have to try and trace it back to when it started. Where did that begin? Did I hear that from my mother? Did I hear it from a teacher? Did I hear it from a sibling? So that's one way to try to, in my version of how to help heal this core shame. So she starts, in the center is I am, and then all the circles around, it can be I am bad, I am flawed, I am a fraud, I am never good enough. I'm a failure. I am not lovable. I'm not worthy of love. I'm bad. So all of these things that we sometimes might hear in our internal voices, realize that that's where our core shame is popping up, and do our work with some of the, I would recommend working with some of the worksheets and exercises that Patti has gifted us with. So thank you so much, Patti, for everything.
You, Billy. And that, sometimes I'll use those words instead of shame with clients too. I won't say, I think you have shame when a client walks in my door, right? That would that would not go over well. Unless I have had clients come to me and say, oh, I'm really into Brene Brown and I hear you work with shame. Then I'll say it. But I'll say, I'm hearing there's a feeling of not being good enough. Yeah. And so those are the core identity beliefs about ourselves that Billy just read. So shame, like I said, it's a tricky word. It brings up a lot.
Well, we're shameful to even use the word shame. It's like, that's the thing. It's like the minute I say it out loud, I feel shameful.
Yeah.
So so it is that spiral of unworthy, or feeling unworthy.
I think on a macro level, shame is used to control. It's used to control behavior, period.
Absolutely. And that's what the Alice Miller work is all about. The grown-ups wanted, it was the patriarchal model of power and control. Yep, absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's the whole lesson, is balancing power. That's another chapter, is balancing power in the therapeutic relationship. So no one's better than anyone else. And oftentimes clients feel that way. Oh, you're the therapist, you know everything. No, I got shame too. Guess what? Like Brene Brown says, and this would be a good way to end, is she said, you put shame in a petri dish and you douse it with silence, judgment, and something else, and it's going to grow exponentially. You put it in a petri dish and with empathy, and and so that's why it's important to understand that empathy isn't just feeling sorry for somebody, it's feeling with and being willing to be open to feeling what the other person is feeling, and then holding them in that safe place. Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming today. This meant so much to me. I love you all, and yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And all of us are enough, and we all are.
Yes. Where's my enough? I have to show my enough. This is in the book too.
Yeah.
My little enough.
My daughter cannot wait until it becomes a 3D, toy. She keeps asking me about that. When is Patti going to make that?
I got the website, the Enough Stuff, so I need people can help me to create mugs and pillows and blankets. Because that's the thing we want to feel. When you look at this, you kind of laugh and you feel, and that helps repair the neural connections. So that's one way to feel enough, because you can't just say, I'm enough. But if you say, I'm enough, you feel a sense of laughter, and that helps heal.
Thank you.
I'm enough. You are enough. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Oh. Yay, Patti. All right. Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye. My kiddos, my girls. Bye, bye, bye. No.
Good job, Mom.
Thanks, honey.
Bye. Thanks, Billy. Billy, I sent you an email of a picture. Did you see it?
I did get that. Thank